friends, in this video I'm gonna talk about how to handle exception for your web application. Now we can have various type of exception, such as when we are not able to find any specific URL. Say for example, if I type here XYZ, there is no URL with the name of XYZ, so it is showing me a status of 404. So instead of showing this type of page, we should show a meaningful message, and we should allow the user to again go back to our application by providing a link here, so that the look and feel of the entire website remains same. So how can we achieve that? So that is what I'm going to discuss in this particular video. Let's start. As a first step, I'm going to create a package to handle exception for my application. So we are going to keep the convention and the standard same, that is group ID, artifact ID, and the package name. So here is the group ID and here is the artifact ID of my project, and I'm going to create a package with the name of exception. So let us quickly jump into our project. Go to source main Java, right click on your source main Java, new package, and finish. So the package has been added, but any class that I'm going to add inside this package needs to be scanned by our Spring framework. And if I open my dispatcher servlet, based on the previous videos that I've created, you can see I am scanning only the package of controller. So I need to ensure that I am not scanning the controller, I am scanning the entire package which is having group ID and artifact ID. So that's why we are always following that convention, so that we don't allow the Spring framework to not to scan any specific components. So I'm just going to remove that dot controller, so that every packages will get scanned for the components. So this is the change that you need to do in your dispatcher servlet. So now we have group ID and artifact ID for the front end project, group ID and artifact ID for the back end project. So this is the two package, and you can also club this thing, that is also fine. If you want to have only this thing, and if you remove this thing, then everything would work. But I would like to keep it separate. So we have online shopping as well as shopping backend. So that's what you're going to do in your first step. Now in the second step, I am going to create a class and annotate it with a controller advice. So every controller will take an advice of this particular class for any exception. It could be specific exception or it could be a generalized exception. So I'm going to give a demo of both the one. Now we'll go to again our exception package, right click, new class, and I'm going to name it as global default exception handler. So once this class is created, I'm going to annotate it with @controller advice annotation. Control Shift O to import the annotation from the package, that is annotation package has the controller advice annotation definition. And then I'm going to create in my third step, that is an exception handler to handle the 404 error for our website. So how can I achieve that thing? So for that, @exception handler, and here you're going to specify the class name. So whenever it is not able to find any specific handler to handle that particular URL, it will throw an no handler found exception dot class. And here I'm going to again write our handler, that is public model and view handle no handler found exception. We are going to create an object of model and view, and v equal to new model and view. I'm going to create a separate view for our error or exception handling. So here I'm going to create an error view in the further step, and I'm going to return mv. Control Shift O to have all the annotation and the classes imported. Now this mv.add object will have few of error title. The page is not constructed. An error description. The page you are looking for is not available now. So we can give any error description message, so that's completely fine. And also mv.add title, add object, and I'm going to also add a title. That is, this is our 404 error page. So we have three things: the error title, error description, and the title. We know for which particular exception this exception handler would be invoked. So this is how you're going to create an exception handler. That's what we said in our third step. We are going to create an exception handler. In the fourth step, I'm going to create an error page to display the exception. So this is the error view that I wanted. So what I did, I took this, our master page, I copied the entire thing, and I'm only keeping the things which is required inside error.jsp. So I've already created this error.jsp. If you notice, the JSN images are gone because I don't want it. Our context root is present. Everything is same. The CSS, that is our bootstrap mean readable theme, as well as our myapp.css. Our title is as it is. Only thing that I have not included is the navbar, that is our header where I am showing our navbar, and here I have removed everything except for this, our navbar brand. And I am saying okay, if you want you can change this name and you can simply write it as home. So whenever someone clicks on this link, it will take to the home. Okay, and everything is inside a wrapper because we have solved that footer problem. Then it is content, and I have created a container. Container has a row and it is taking the entire 12 grid. So here I am going to display our error that we are sending from here. That is the title, description, and the title for our head section. Okay, so let us go to our error.jsp page. I'm going to use a component def class equal to, and that component name is jumbotron. Now inside this jumbotron, I'm going to open a header h1, and here I'm going to display the error title. I'm going to put an hr, and then here I'm going to display the description in block code. So block code is an element of HTML, and here I'm going to display $error description. So this is what I've added in error.jsp. So to summarize everything, what is there inside our error.jsp, we have the same tags which we have added in our page.jsp. We have our context root except images and JS, which is not required. We have our CSS file, again the title, header. I have given a link to only home, and below there are no JS file, and now we have our footer to have a consistent look and feel. So this is the only code which I have added in error.jsp, taking the help of page.jsp. Okay, now if I run this, okay, after this step I am going to continue the further step, but first I need to run this and check whether we are getting our custom error page for 404. So if I restart my server, open my console, and if I again refresh this application, check this console. console again. So all the URL that are mapped has been shown here. So I'm gonna use a URL which is not present and see what will happen. XYZ, and if I press enter, again we are getting this type of page which we should not get, and we should get the page that we have created right now. So why this is not working? So if you check the console, still we are getting that warning. You are not getting that exception. So how can we get that exception? So for that you need to change your deployment descriptor. For this specific reason, I'm going to change our web.xml file. So inside web.xml file, this is the dispatcher servlet configuration that we did. Here you need to explicitly throw that exception if there is no handler. So how can you achieve that thing? So for throwing exception, we are doing this configuration. That is, we need to have an init param. The parameter name will be throw exception if no handler found. So this is the parameter that you need to set, that is throw exception if no handler found, and you need to assign the value param value which is true. If this is not set, we cannot get our custom error page for 404. So make sure you're using this throw exception if no handler found, and it is case sensitive, so we have to use it as it is because it is a parameter of your dispatcher servlet which we are initializing as true. Once this is done, let me again restart our server. And let me go and refresh my application. Still loading. Get loaded. So our application has loaded. Now if I write XYZ and press enter, you can see we are having our own custom error page that we created. So this is how you can create your own custom error page. If you see the title, it is showing 404 error page, and if I click on home, I can again go back to my page. So if anyone tries to modify your URL, they will always get that page which is showing the error information that the page is not constructed. So pretty neat. And I will also show you how to create a custom exception, that is the user defined exception for the product. That is, if someone clicks on this product and if tries to find a product like this, so there is no product and we are getting this 500 internal server errors. So how to handle this thing? So that will give you a good example of how to create a user defined exception for your application. So let me stop this server and I will again open my exception package, right click, and I'm gonna create a new class and I'm gonna name it as product not found exception. Okay, and finish. this product not found exception extends exception. It will have a private string message, and I'm gonna create the constructor for this one, that is public product not found exception. I'm gonna call this, and I'm going to pass product is not available. And similarly, I'm going to create another overloaded constructor here with a string message. So here this dot message will be equal to system dot current time in millisecond plus some nice formatting, and I'm going to say plus that message. And finally a getter method for our message, so we can create it using generate getter and setter. So for this message, and I'm gonna say only getter. I don't require this message to be set separately. I'm only going to provide a read-only access, that is get the message, because the message has been set here inside our constructor. So even it is showing me this warning, so that warning can be removed by implementing serializable. So we are going to mark it, this particular class, that it is serializable. Control Shift O to import, and we are going to add the default serial version ID. So this is how you are going to create your own custom exception. So we are done with this part. Now we are going to use this exception in our global default exception handler first of all. So what we can do, we are again going to copy this, and we are going to add an exception handler that is specific to product not found. So I'm going to write it here, product not found exception. It handler for product not found exception. So again it is going to be the error page, and here instead of writing this, I'm going to say product not available, and I'm going to give a nice description. The product you are looking for is not available right now, and instead of this title, we're going to say product unavailable. So this is how we can add our own custom exception in our application. Now the time is to test this particular custom exception that we created. So we are going to go to our page controller where we are displaying the single product. So here is the request mapping for viewing a single product. So the first change I'm going to do is I'm going to add the throws product not found exception. Control Shift O to import this particular exception class, and here we are getting that product. So what if the product is not available? So I'm going to say if product is equal to null, throw new product not found exception. Now you can give your own message, or it will take the message that is already defined in the default constructor. So it is going to throw a new product not found exception. Since this was a checked exception, I need to specify throws here. Otherwise I need to surround it with a try catch. So we know while finding a product, it might throw a product not found exception. So this is how you are going to add it inside your page controller. Once this is done, we are going to test it. I'm going to go to the server and restart the server. our path, that is we'll open up the application first. Okay, so we have our application up and running. Now if I go to view product, and if I view any product, so it will tell me okay, show third product. But if I try to search for 300 product, it will give me product not available. So initially it was giving me 500 error, now it is showing me product not available. So this is what we have done in our fifth step, that is we created a user defined exception, and by adding an exception handler we are displaying the appropriate message. So in my seventh step I am going to show you how to handle the generalized exception. Now there is still one catch, is that this 300 was integer, that's why it was able to find that value. But if I type ABC, see what will happen. It is showing me a different kind of a message. So there is some error which is cropped up, or if I try to write XYZ and press enter, so it is showing me another error. So now we are going to handle this generalized exception. So how can we handle that generalized exception? So again we are going to go to our global default exception handler. We are going to copy this, and I'm going to add another exception handler here for exception.class handler for exception. Okay, and we have again the same error page. We are going to only specify here error has occurred. Error description, we are going to say contact your administrator. And here what that exception is, I can provide that parameter inside our handler exception method. So it will automatically fill up. And okay, so the error title would be contact your administrator, and the title would be error. Error description, I can write es dot toString. That's it. I'm gonna just check whether our this generalized exception has been called or not right now by specifying it toString. Okay, let me restart it. We'll go here and again click that path. Let it get loaded again. Okay, so we have this thing. Now again we'll go to view products. I click here, and if I try to find for XYZ product, it is showing me that error, what it is there. So this is how we are handling our generalized exception using the exception.class, and it is converted that entire exception into toString. So you can see what it is showing me. Type mismatch, failed to convert value of type java.lang.string to required type int. So we are not getting any 500 or 400 type of error. So whatever error it is coming, it is displaying here in block code. What if you want to display the entire stack trace? So there is also a way to do that thing. So I will show you that quickly. Now here to print the entire stack trace, because stack trace is printed on the console, but I want to display it on the web page. That is only for debugging purpose. We should not do this thing inside our production environment, only for debugging. So let me comment it, only for debugging your application. Okay, we are going to first of all create a string writer object, sw equal to new string writer. We are going to create a print writer, new print writer, and provide it with sw. So Control Shift O, because we want this both the object to be included, which is available in the IO package. Once this is done, we are going to call our ex.print stack trace, and we are going to pass this pw object, which is already attached to our string writer. Yeah. So everything would be written using print writer over our string writer object, and then we can use that string writer object here instead of ex sw.toString. So after making these changes, I'm going to again do a restart. Again go to our path. So we have our application up and running. I'm going to view product, click on any product, so we'll get that URL, and then if I try to modify it, I'm getting the entire stack trace. You can see here from where we are able to get that particular exception. But here if you see, it is going outside the boundary because it is all part of the same word. So how can you apply some CSS and make it available inside this particular page without scrolling? So you can achieve that. You can go to your error.jsp page. So this block code is the actual source of problems. I'm going to style it. I'm going to use our CSS3 property of word wrap, and I'm going to say break word. So this is the style information that you need to add. Save it, and if you do a quick refresh, so you can see the entire stack trace is available in a single window without scrolling horizontally. So vertical we can scroll and read the exception here itself. So this you should do only for your development purpose, not for actual production environment. So we have covered many things in this exception handling. We have covered 404, custom, and generalized exception. In my next part, I'm going to do some of the bug fixes, and that is going to be the last video in this particular part, and there will be more part further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to home and do these bug fixes for product. That is, if I sort this particular product using quantity, so this is 0, so we are going to display an out of stock message, and this should be disabled, because if anyone tries to view and if he tries to add this to cart, since quantity is not available, it should be out of stock here, and this button should be disabled. So that is the kind of bug fixes I'm going to do in our next video. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.